My girlfriend posted, "Finally free and living my best life, on a yacht with an older man." I commented, "Looks fun." Then I sent the man's wife the location from her Instagram posts. Her daily live cam was suddenly turned off. I, 32 male, Nathan, am a pretty simple guy. I work in data analysis, which is just a fancy way of saying I stare at spreadsheets all day, looking for patterns people miss. It's not thrilling, but it pays the bills and allows me to indulge in my hobbies. One of those hobbies, until recently, was my girlfriend Qley, 28. We'd been together for 3 years. I thought things were serious. We were talking about moving in together, maybe even getting a dog. The usual stuff. Then, last Tuesday, my world kind of tilted on its axis. I was scrolling through Instagram, procrastinating on a report, when a new post from Qley popped up. The picture was stunning. A wide-angle shot of her on the deck of a very expensive-looking yacht, champagne flute in hand, laughing at something off camera. The sun was setting over a sparkling blue sea. The caption read, "Finally free and living my best life. Yacht life, blessed, new beginnings." For a second, I was just confused. Qley was supposed to be on a wellness retreat with her college friends. No phone policy, she'd said. A chance to disconnect and find her center. She'd been stressed at her marketing job and I'd encouraged her to go. I even paid for half of it as an early birthday present. My thumb hovered over the picture. New beginnings? That sounded final. I clicked on her tagged location. It was a live tag, updating in real time. The yacht was moored just off a small, exclusive island a few hundred miles down the coast. Definitely not the rustic yoga retreat she'd described. Then I saw the other person in the photo, tagged, a man named Peter Thorne, 50s M. I didn't recognize him. His profile was public. Lots of pictures of him on golf courses, at charity galas, and on the same yacht. He was what my grandma would call comfortably off. He was also very, very married. His wife, Victoria Thorne, was in a lot of his older pictures. Her profile was also public, full of posts about her prize-winning roses and her grandkids. My heart did a slow, painful drum roll in my chest. It wasn't a sudden, shattering heartbreak. It was a cold, creeping realization. The wellness retreat was a lie. Qley was with this older married man on his yacht. I could have called her. I could have screamed. I could have smashed my keyboard. But I'm a data analyst. My first instinct is always to gather information and identify the most efficient solution. An emotional outburst felt inefficient. So I took a screenshot of Qley's post. I took a screenshot of Peter Thorne's profile. Then, I went to Victoria Thorne's Instagram page. She seemed like a nice lady. Her bio read, "Wife, mother, grandmother, I believe in kindness and good soil." I sent her a direct message. It was simple, direct. "Hello, Mrs. Thorne. My name is Nathan. I believe my girlfriend is currently on your husband's yacht. Here's the location from her public Instagram post." I attached the screenshot of Qley's post with the live location tag. Then I went back to Qley's picture. All her friends were commenting things like, "You go, girl," and "So happy for you." I added my own comment. "Looks fun, hope the wellness retreat is going well." Then I put my phone on silent, turned back to my spreadsheet, and got back to work. I had a deadline to meet. Update 1. Well, things escalated, and not in a quiet, dignified way. About 5 hours after my comment and the DM to Victoria Thorne, Qley's Instagram post vanished. Her entire account went private. A little while later, her live location tag went dark. The daily live cam she apparently had on the yacht was, as the title says, suddenly turned off. My phone started blowing up around midnight. I was asleep, but the barrage of notifications woke me up. Voicemail after voicemail from a hysterical Qley. "How could you do that? You ruined everything. You're a psycho, a stalker. You have no idea what you've done." Interspersed with texts, "Qley, you are a sick, vindictive man. I can't believe I ever loved you. Peter is furious. His wife is threatening to leave him. This is all your fault. He was going to help me with my career. He has connections. You've destroyed my future." The entitlement was breathtaking. Not a single word of apology. Not, "I'm sorry I cheated on you." Just pure, unadulterated rage that I had dared to expose her new beginning. Then came the texts from a number I didn't recognize. It was Peter Thorne. "Peter, you have no idea who you're dealing with, kid. You better hope our paths never cross. A man doesn't get to where I am without knowing how to handle little problems like you." I saved screenshots of everything. Data. It's always good to have data. The next morning, I woke up feeling surprisingly calm. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it was overshadowed by a strange sense of clarity. The person I thought I loved didn't exist. She was a fiction I'd created in my own head. I spent the morning packing up her things. She didn't have much at my place, just a few drawers of clothes, some makeup, and a collection of self-help books with titles like Manifest Your Best Life. The irony was thick enough to taste. Around noon, my doorbell rang. It was Qley. Her eyes were red and puffy. Her designer dress was rumpled. She looked like she'd had a rough night. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my apartment. "I don't think we do, Qley," I said, staying by the door. "You had no right," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "That was a private matter. You posted it on a public Instagram account," I replied, my voice even. "That's sort of the opposite of private. Victoria is a nightmare. She canceled all of Peter's credit cards. She called his business partners. She's trying to ruin him." "Sounds like a you problem," I said. Then came the part that still rings in my head. "You owe me," she said, her eyes narrowing. "I wasted 3 years of my life on you. You're boring. You have no ambition. I was settling, and you have the audacity to sabotage my chance at a better life?" The sheer nerve of it almost made me laugh. "You need to give me $5,000, she said, "for the emotional distress you've caused, and for the money I lost on the retreat you made me miss." I just stared at her. "I paid for half of that retreat, Qley, the one that was actually a romantic getaway on a married man's yacht." "Semantics," she snapped. "Peter was going to pay me back. Now he can't, because his witch of a wife has him on a financial leash, so you owe me." This was the new low. Not just the cheating, not just the lies, but the demand for payment for my own betrayal. I walked over to the boxes I had packed. "Here's your stuff," I said. "I think it's time for you to leave." She looked at the boxes, then back at me, her face a mask of disbelief. "You're not going to give me the money?" "No," I said. "I'm not." "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll tell everyone what you did. I'll make sure all our friends know what a possessive, controlling monster you are." "Okay," I said. And I watched her struggle to carry her boxes of manifested dreams out of my apartment. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The dirty tricks were just getting started. Update 2. The past 2 weeks have been an exercise in strategic patience. Qley made good on her threat. The smear campaign was swift and surprisingly coordinated. It started with a group chat of our mutual friends from which I was unceremoniously kicked. Then, my friend Zachary called me. "Dude, what the hell happened with Qley?" he asked, his voice strained. "She's telling everyone you were tracking her phone, that you got obsessed and stalked her to that boat." "She posted her location publicly on Instagram, Zachary," I explained, for what felt like the 100th time. "Yeah, but she's saying you were a data stalker, that you used your tech skills to find some private post, and that you've always been jealous and controlling." It was a clever lie, tailored to my profession. Qley knew just enough about my job to make it sound plausible. A few mutual friends bought it. I got some angry texts. A couple of people unfriended me. It stung, I won't lie. The intimidation from Peter also evolved. The initial, clumsy texts stopped. Instead, I started getting silent calls from spoofed numbers that disappeared when I tried to call them back. Once, a food delivery I never ordered showed up at my door at 2 a.m. Small, untraceable acts designed to unnerve me, to make me feel watched. It was smarter, more insidious. I reported it all to the police, but without a clear source, they could only log the complaints. Then came the main attack. I got an email from my boss. "Can you come to my office, please?" My stomach clenched. In the office, my boss, a stern but fair woman named Qley, was sitting with an HR representative, Jose. "We've received an anonymous complaint," Qley said, her expression serious. "It alleges that you have been using company resources to stalk and harass a former partner." My blood ran cold. This was it. Their real play. The HR rep slid a printout of an email across the table. It was well-written and professional, sent from an encrypted temporary email address. It was completely untraceable. The email detailed how an employee with my skill set could theoretically use proprietary data analysis tools to access private information, monitor personal activity, and intimidate others. It was slick. It was terrifying. The complaint also alleges a pattern of possessive behavior and suggests a psychological evaluation might be in order, Jose added, looking at me over his glasses. They were trying to paint me as unstable, to get me fired and discredit me completely. That is a very serious and a very false accusation, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. We have to investigate it as if it's true, Qley said, her tone leaving no room for argument. We'll need to conduct a full forensic audit of your work computer, network access, and all digital activity. You'll be on paid leave, effective immediately. This was their checkmate. They knew I was meticulous, but they were betting that a corporate forensic audit would find something. Nobody is 100% perfect. I spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled panic. I replayed every single day at that office in my head. Had I ever used the company Wi-Fi on my personal phone to check Facebook? Had I ever printed a non-work document? I remembered printing a boarding pass for a work trip last year, but on the same batch was a concert ticket for myself. It was a minor, silly thing, but my stomach twisted at the thought of it being twisted into something sinister. It was a crack in my otherwise perfect armor. I went back and forth between rage and despair. For a brief, dark moment, I thought about just quitting. Let them win. The thought of them picking through my digital life felt like a violation. But then the analyst in me took over. Emotion was inefficient. I needed data. I couldn't access my work computer, but I could access the complaint itself. Qley had let me take a photo of it. I sat at my kitchen table and read it over and over. The language was precise, full of corporate jargon. And that's when I saw it. A tiny mistake. In a paragraph describing hypothetical ways I could misuse data, the author wrote, for example, an employee could cross-reference public social data with our Project Nightingale client database to create a detailed personality profile. Project Nightingale. My heart hammered against my ribs. Project Nightingale was not a project at my company. I had never heard of it. It sounded like a code name for something sensitive. On a hunch, I did some digging. It took hours of sifting through business news archives and press releases. And then I found it. A single mention in an obscure trade publication from 2 years ago. Thorn Industries had announced a new data initiative for its top-tier clients. The internal codename was Project Nightingale. Peter wasn't just arrogant. He was a creature of habit. In his attempt to sound authentic and knowledgeable, he had used the internal jargon of his own company. He had signed his anonymous confession. When Qley called me back into the office, the forensic report was on the table. As I feared, they'd found the concert ticket. Jose, the HR rep, pointed to it gravely. Before he could speak, I put my own printout on the table. It was the screenshot of the complaint, with Project Nightingale highlighted. Next to it, I placed the printout from the trade journal. The complaint is false, I said to Qley, and I know who sent it. The author mentions a Project Nightingale. My company has no such project, but Thorn Industries does. It's their high-level client data initiative. The CEO of Thorn Industries is a man named Peter Thorn. I then laid out my phone, showing them the screenshots of Peter's initial threatening texts, the police report numbers for the harassment, and the credit card fraud report. This isn't an anonymous complaint from a concerned citizen, I said, my voice shaking with restrained anger. This is a malicious, targeted attack by the CEO of another company. He is retaliating against me because I discovered he was having an affair with my now ex-girlfriend. The room was silent. Qley and Jose looked from my evidence to each other. The concert ticket suddenly seemed very, very small. The air in the room had changed completely. They weren't investigating an employee anymore. They were looking at an attack on their company. Final update. The fallout was not a sudden explosion, but a series of controlled demolitions. My company's legal department did not file a massive headline-grabbing lawsuit. That's not how these things usually work. Their approach was far more quiet and far more lethal. They drafted a detailed, multi-page cease and desist letter. It was a work of art. It was addressed directly to the board of directors at Thorn Industries, with a copy sent to Peter Thorn. It laid out, in excruciating detail, the timeline of events. It included the harassment, the fraudulent credit card charge, and the full analysis of the anonymous complaint, complete with the Project Nightingale smoking gun. It accused their CEO, Peter Thorne, of using his position and resources to engage in a campaign of personal harassment and corporate sabotage against an employee of a rival firm. The letter stated that, while my company currently had no desire for public litigation, any further contact with me, direct or indirect, or any failure by the board to take decisive and immediate corrective action would result in this evidence being turned over to the authorities for criminal investigation and to the relevant industry oversight commissions for professional sanctions. A CEO using company-specific knowledge to try and get an ordinary citizen fired is not just bad PR, it's a monumental breach of ethics and fiduciary duty. It's the kind of liability that makes a board of directors break out in a cold sweat. Peter Thorne was not publicly fired. 2 weeks later, a sterile press release announced he was stepping down to pursue other opportunities and to spend more time with his family. It was a classic corporate execution. He was gone. He likely walked away with money, but his reputation in the industry was shredded. The power he wielded was gone. Victoria Thorne, the woman with the roses, handled her own business. The divorce filing was swift. With the evidence of his affair and his clearly vindictive behavior, her lawyers had all the leverage they needed. His other opportunities will likely involve funding a very, very comfortable life for her. I saw a post on her Instagram last week. A picture of her grandkids, playing on the deck of that same yacht. The caption read, "Making new, better memories, family first, true freedom." As for Qley, with Peter and his influence gone, her safety net vanished. The smear campaign she started backfired spectacularly. Once I was cleared, I sent the full package of evidence, her texts, the threats, the story of the HR complaint, to our mutual friend Zachary. I just said, "This is what happened, believe what you want." The data spoke for itself. The story of her entitlement and her part in a vicious, retaliatory campaign spread through our social circle like wildfire. Her marketing firm, a small agency where reputation is everything, let her go for breach of a morality clause in her contract. The last I heard, she was living with her parents, her grand new beginning, having evaporated into nothing. She tried to rebrand as some kind of lifestyle influencer, but her posts about overcoming adversity felt hollow and desperate. My company gave me a formal letter of commendation for my analytical acuity and integrity under pressure. Julie even joked that I had a future in forensics. I told her I was happy with my spreadsheets. The concert ticket was never mentioned again. I'm still in my same apartment, at my same job. But something has shifted in me. I learned that my quiet, methodical nature isn't a weakness. It's my strength. In a world of loud, emotional outbursts, the person who stays calm, gathers the data, and finds the single critical flaw in the narrative is the one who holds the real power. Last night, I was on a dating app. I saw Qley's profile. Same picture on the yacht. A monument to her own downfall. I swiped left, and for the first time in a month, I felt the air in my lungs feel truly light. I didn't feel joy or victory or even satisfaction. I just felt quiet. And I realized that's what I wanted all along. The drama was over, the data had been analyzed, the case was closed.